So hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us today Mariam Alwohaib. So hello and good evening, Mariam.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here with you today.
You are most welcome. So Miss Mariam, first of all, we'd like from you to introduce yourself to our dear viewers.
My name is Mariam Alwohaib. I've studied childhood studies in the UK in the University of Leeds. I currently work in a preschool, Be Curious Preschool. I've been working there for a couple of years, and on the side, or in general, I always find myself with children, even in volunteering and my nephews, and just in my daily life, I always find myself wherever children are. So that kind of spilled into my volunteering experiences. And yeah.
So Miss Mariam, you volunteered for many organizations, including Manarat Ghadeera and also التراحم.
Yes.
So can you please tell us when actually you started volunteering with these organizations?
So with volunteering, I think I always tell myself my parents have instilled that volunteering personality or characteristic in me. So it started happening when I was young, but on a smaller scale. And in my daily life, like from donating money or just those small things. But it happened on a bigger scale in 2018 when I graduated from university.
Yes.
I came back to Kuwait and I found an opportunity to travel with Taraḥum. And that was my first volunteering experience outside of Kuwait. And then when I came back a few years later, 2020, around 2020, that was when I met the founder of Manarat Ghadeera,
Yes.
Fatima, and we just clicked in terms of how we like to do things and how we like to approach certain projects when it comes to volunteering, and we just took it from there. And I think it's 2020, 2 years ago, that's when I officially became part of Manarat Ghadeera.
So the beginning of the pandemic, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was it was, let's say, an opportunity. We saw like loopholes in places where people can do good, and we tried to provide and do our best to be there for people in that time.
That's incredible. Yeah. So Miss Mariam, let's talk about you. Actually, when actually did you start voluntary work in general? Like it was when you were a child, or back in the Taraḥum 2018 once you graduated?
In general, I don't like to sit down, like even my parents, even when the pandemic happened, actually.
Yes.
When the pandemic happened, I remember everyone was like, oh, they want, and it was a good thing for me. I was sitting at home and relaxing and all of that, but then like, I need to do something, I want to do something, I can't sit in one place, I need to go out. And I remember I went to my mom, I was like, I want to volunteer in the airport. And I was like,
oh, airport, well, why
no.
is that?
She's like, no. The pandemic is, it's located there, as they say. And then I was like, I want to volunteer in the co-op. I was like, okay. So in general, I would say again, since I was young, I can't remember like the day and time, but I'm pretty sure it has a huge part with parenting, and how my parents just encourage me wherever I can give, I would give.
Yes.
And people might not call that volunteering because it's not a big project, but I do believe it starts when people are young, and that's why I believe in children and just how much they can take from you, and how much you can instill from them, and how much you can inspire them and just show them how you can do it with small things. And just, there's a saying in Arabic, قليل دائم خير من كثير منقطع, which means just do it, be consistent, and provide little rather than providing a lot and just doing it once and then cutting off.
We'll say it.
So I think that's how I go on about volunteering.
Yeah, it's obvious that the voluntary work is in your blood, and also you love children, as you are like a school curriculum manager. That's why you love helping children and helping in general the needy people, especially in the pandemic where everyone needs help back then.
Yeah.
So let's get back to Manarat Ghadeera. It's really unique, like say, title for this organization. What's the reason behind this title?
So the name of the organization is kind of personal to the founder, and basically Ghadeera, when she told me the story, I asked her because in the beginning it was a project, حصالة Ghadeera, which is kind of like where you collect the money, the حصالة, it's where you collect the money. And it was called حصالة Ghadeera. So I was very attracted to Ghadeera. And I was like, why Ghadeera? And then she went on and told me about her aunt and how her aunt she was sitting in a gathering, as we have every week in Kuwait. And she was talking about, you know, the refrigerators that are located in different areas where people put extra food that they have.
Yes.
And how she was talking to her aunt about the refrigerator not being in a good standard and people just throwing food in there rather than putting it in a nice way. And then her aunt was like, if you don't like it, do something.
Yes.
And then she was like, I should do something. And she went on and she did something about it. And then she was inspired by her aunt who was called Ghadeera. And that's why she felt like she wanted a part of it to be her name. And then when we went on to have more projects, not just the refrigerator and the hasala,
yes,
like she went on and called it Manarat Ghadeera, and Manara is a personal name for her. It was
is it like the lighthouse?
It's the lighthouse, exactly, and it's also the name of her mother. Peace be upon her. And it's a lighthouse, so it's kind of like when you volunteer, you need a destination, you need a goal, you need a lighthouse to inspire you. And that's where the name Manarat Ghadeera came from.
Wow, this is a real lovely story and a lovely names actually, Ghadeera and Manara.
Yeah.
So what is all about Manarat Ghadeera? What is the main work you are focusing on doing inside this organization?
So currently, Manarat Ghadeera, we focus on different projects in Kuwait. They're all in Kuwait, but different projects, I mean, like one is the refrigerators, one is kind of like we organize, I think it's 3 carnivals for families who are in need. And these carnivals, basically, it's a collaboration between different restaurants, different businesses, different projects. They come together with Manarat Ghadeera and also different organizations like Oneness and Sahabat Amal and all of these different organizations.
Is it like campaigns inside this organization?
Yeah, it's kind of like collaboration. So Manarat Ghadeera, we have different connections with different organizations. And sometimes we aim to work on same project.
Yes.
So the Joyland project, the carnival one, we kind of all come together, and it's happened a couple of times where we've all collaborated together. And basically we organize a free carnival for those families, and it's very organized. A word that the founder and myself of Manarat Ghadeera, it attracted us to each other, let's say. It's ihsan, and ihsan means doing things in the best way you can.
Yes.
And not doing it, you know, sometimes people who volunteer, they feel like, oh, since I'm volunteering, doing the bare minimum is enough.
Yes.
When it's not. If you want to do something, do it the best way you can, even if you're not going to get money for it, or if you're not going to get a reward, let's say, in return. So when it came to the carnivals, it's kind of like a VIP guest list, and we call these families in. And it's a limited seat event. So they come in, the kids go and play, and the families come and shop from the different businesses, but it's all shopping for free. But like they have cards and like they punch it, and it's just a different experience, even psychologically for the parents. They're not just getting things that they don't necessarily need.
Yes.
It's giving them an opportunity to come and select and choose and be a part of that huge community, let's say. So Joyland is one of the projects, and one of the continuing projects that we work on is called 180 Degrees, which is basically an educational program. And it's meant, why we called it 180 is because it changes the life, education in general, it changes the life of children from one situation 180 degrees to another situation.
So basically it's like many programs and activities inside this organization.
Exactly.
So each one has its own mission.
Exactly.
So that's amazing. Ms. Mariam would like to hear more about that. But dear viewers, let's have this tiny little report and then we'll be right back to you. And we are back again, dear viewers, with our distinguished guest, Ms. Mariam Alwohaib. So, Ms. Mariam, we're talking about the projects of the Manarat Ghadeera organization. You mentioned like 2 of them. Can you please elaborate more about that?
Yeah, so we also have, so basically 180, it's education based, and then we have one that is cloth based, and we come back to the word ihsan, which is we know that many projects in Kuwait, in general, Kuwaitis, they have like they're pioneers when it comes to volunteering and giving, and that's amazing.
Yes.
And when it came to donating clothes, usually the way it happens is people would box away clothes that they don't want, and then randomly the clothes would be delivered to families. And we not like usually the families, you wouldn't know if that's their taste, if that's their size, if that's what they would choose and select. So
basically just choose wherever they like.
Exactly. So
whatever they need, actually.
Exactly. So basically in Manarat Ghadeera, in collaboration with Oneness, a different organization, we started the Enda project, which is basically a website, and it's shopping online for families in need for free.
Wow, amazing.
So they get a code and they get to shop every 2 weeks, and they get like how many pieces they can buy, so that we can have availability for all different families. And when families or individuals want to donate their clothes in general, we would put it in a storage room, and then that's where volunteers come in. So like we have so many different volunteers volunteering in this project, because volunteers are coming in to organize the storage area. Volunteers are taking pictures, uploading on the website. Volunteers delivering to the families. So it's kind of like a community, and all of the individuals who are volunteering in this community, they honestly do it for the fact of doing good, because they don't get credit, they don't get acknowledgement. It's not like, oh, we're gonna be on TV, or even sometimes when volunteering, you enjoy the interaction with other people. But in this project specifically, what amazes me with the volunteers who volunteer with this project is
names like Oneness. And even the website name's Oneness?
No, Enda. It's called Enda. Oneness is a different organization. We're collaborating with them to help us. But the volunteers, like, they don't even get to engage with the families per se. They honestly just do it because they know it's good at the end of the day, and they're doing it for the fact that these families are going to get clothes that they have chosen. And again, with that comes empowerment of families. Like when you come and select a piece of clothing that's completely your taste and what you would choose, it's different than someone just handing you, take this, you need it, I'll just give you this piece of clothing.
But make it easy, actually, when they collect it online. It's really amazing. It's a great idea.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, these are the projects mainly. We have side projects as well, but
what about the volunteers, actually? What's actually their main tasks?
So again, depending on the project, the tasks would differ. Some projects are very short based. So like the Joyland project, it was a weekend. So volunteers would come in, they would be in different booths, they would welcome families in, they would be with the kids, they would just, in general, help with organizing the event. With projects like Enda, it's kind of like a long-term project. It's a continuing project, because every week there's a set of tasks, and every week these set of tasks need to be done. So the volunteers work on website, storage, delivery, that kind of things. And then with different projects, I'm just trying to remember certain projects, but it just differs, you know,
so
depending
it's like
on the project.
Basically, each volunteer has his or her own tasks, depends on the project.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about you, Ms. Mariam? What is your big or main tasks for you?
In Manarat Ghadeera or in general?
Let's say in Manarat Ghadeera.
So with Manarat Ghadeera, mainly I have an eye for videography, directing, children, like these, put them in a blender, that's me. So when it comes to Manarat Ghadeera, even when I first joined, I was usually like directing the campaigns that are happening along with our amazing videographer, Abdulaziz. When it came to the children aspect of Manarat Ghadeera, I like to have, like, let's say, a say or a role in how things are done or what's offered to them. Like when we visit families, because I work in a preschool, so even in the preschool, I try as much as we can to collaborate with Manarat Ghadeera. I take advantage of that, and like we because we have summer camps and not just summer camps and camps in general.
So interesting, actually.
So in these camps, we try to let the children donate or create individualized gifts for those children in need, and then myself and our Be Curious team, in collaboration with Manara, I take them and we go visit these families.
Wow, so children help children.
Exactly.
Wow.
Even when in Ramadan, like the iftar sa'im, so basically when we break the fast, we take the children with us, and we just did that with Manarat Ghadeera this Ramadan, and we just took the children and they were delivering and giving the food, and
it's really a fun activity for the children. So you mentioned about you taking advantage from your work or your job as like a school manager with your Manarat Ghadeera. So how actually you manage your time doing both of them, the voluntary work and your job?
There's a word in Arabic again, it's barakah. So it's just, I
blessing,
think,
let's say.
Blessing, blessing. When you do things, doors will open up for you. And it's not easy every day or every time. Sometimes you have so many things on your plate. You have to let go of one thing. But the most important thing I feel like when it comes to the volunteering aspect is not to feel like, oh, since I've let go of it this time, to let go of it completely. Just come back to it. And I think especially when you're volunteering part of a group, someone is always there to, if you're not there to pull up the weight, someone will be there to help you. And we all get different situations happening in our lives. So if you're not here this month, someone else will be covering for you. Then the next month you'll be doing it, and someone else has a different situation that they need to take care of. But when it comes to time management, I just think there's no key, let's say, solutions for it. I just think you do it when you have the time, and when you don't, you just come back to it. You just do it, and you do it, and
because you love what you are doing.
Exactly.
And you love helping people, and you love children. That's why you don't feel the time, actually.
Yeah, and I think a crucial point when it comes to time management with volunteering, just having the right people around you. When you have the people to encourage you, and the people to be like, hey, it's fine, you're busy this time, and we'll just come back next month. I think that helps you with not feeling burnt out from everything you have.
So you have some people who support Mariam.
Yeah, of course.
Who supports Mariam?
My family, my colleagues, like Fatma, like she's a big supporter when it comes to volunteering, and my sisters, they each give in different ways in different organizations. And I think just learning how to, especially when it comes to volunteering, learning to do it for the right reasons, and when it comes to support, just reminding yourself that's why you're doing it, and you'll feel like you're going to support yourself, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's
good to surround yourself with positive and supportive people.
So,
dear viewers, we'll move on with Miss Mariam, but after this report. We are back again, dear viewers, with our guest, Miss Mariam Alwohaib. So, Miss Mariam, you've been volunteering, let's say, from 5 years in Tarahum and 2 years in Manarat Ghadeera. I'm pretty sure you experienced a lot of situations. We would like to hear a story, memorable story you experienced through your voluntary work.
One of the, like, whenever someone asks me about memorable story or a touching story, I always go back to that one story, and I think it just shaped a huge part of my volunteering experience, I would say. It happened actually in 2018 when I first volunteered with Fariq Tarahum, the Tarahum group. We went abroad to assist the Syrian refugees in Turkey. And I still remember it because the story of how I even got onto that trip and just everything working out, I've been trying to go for a few years, but it never happened. And the way it happened, it was just like very fast, very quick. When I ended up and when we went, it was my first experience of volunteering abroad. So that on its own was like, oh, like this is happening. And I went with no expectations. I didn't know what I was going to see, who I was going to meet. But again, I'm immediately drawn by kids, and I just love engaging with them. So I remember it was a 3-day trip. On the first day we went, and we went to like a playing arena, and there were so many kids, Syrian kids, and they were all orphans. And I was the videographer on that trip. So like I had a bag with my camera and the batteries and all of the equipment that I needed. And so I went in, I was focused, I wanted to take the footage, I wanted to take the shots. And then they were passing toys. And I remember there were 5 boys, 8 years old around, or 7. And I was like, what's your name? The first one was like, Muhammad. The second one, Muhammad. Like all 5 of them were Muhammad. And then one of the Muhammads, he just kept tagging along wherever I went, whenever I was taking a picture, a video. And then we were gonna leave. So as we were leaving, he was like, Mariam, like, can you give me one thing from your bag so that I can remember you? And I was like, I had nothing in my bag except for the equipment. Like I didn't have any candy or balloons or anything.
Yes.
So I was like, what can I give him? Like I want to give him something. And I remember I just sat on the floor and I took out my notebook and I just wrote him a letter. And then I folded it, I gave it to him. And then other kids are like, we want a letter. And I was like, okay, but like him, it stuck with me. Then I was like, and the bus were calling me like, we're late, we need to leave. And I'm like, okay. I gave it to him, I was like, bye. Like, because it's a 3-day program, so I never expected to see him again. So he was like, no, I'll see you again. I'm like, Muhammad, like, no, like this is where the interaction ends.
Yes.
And then he's like, no, I'll see you. He was very confident. So we left. And then the second day we were on our program and we went to a stop to visit one of the houses. And far away, I can see like 5 kids just jumping. And then as they were coming closer, one of them was Muhammad. And they was like running. I was like, look, I told you I'll see you again. I'm like, yeah. But then I was like, okay, bye. Again, I'm not going to see you. I was like, I'm going to see you again. I was like, no, Muhammad, tomorrow we're leaving, we're traveling.
Yes.
Like, no, I'll see you. And then the 3rd day, so the day we're going to come back to Kuwait, I remember before we went to the airport, we went to one of the buildings Tarahum has built. And in it, there was like kind of an orphan house, kind of. So I was so exhausted on that day. And we went like 4 stairs of flight and I was just exhausted. And then I was at the back, and then in the front, I can see a boy jumping up and down. I was like, Mariam!
It's
like,
Muhammad.
Muhammad.
Wow.
And then I went, and then he was actually sleeping in that house. And he's like, I want to show you something. And then he took me to his room, and then he opened his pillow, and under it was a letter, the letter that I wrote him. And then he's like, I'll save this letter forever. And then a year later, I go, and I see him. He's like, look, I have your letter.
You still kept your letter.
Yeah, and it was one of like, whenever I remember that story, I just get goosebumps. And
it's really
touching
story.
Yeah, I went actually 3 years, and every year I would see him and he would be a little bit grown up and he would be a little bit more shy. But it just sticks with me how much like these orphans
get attached with you.
Get attached, and how you think you're giving them, but when in fact he has no idea what he has given me. And that's why I feel very fortunate too, because it's one of those things where you're like, you have to experience it on your own. Even if I share the story with you, it's never the same as you going and experiencing your own story. It's not going to happen the same way for everyone, but volunteering, you're going to get moved by a story, by a moment, by something someone has said to you. By a
situation, by a person, by a child. So what actually you feel once you see like children really happy when you give them anything? Like for example, Muhammad, you give him a letter and he's still attached with you like 3 years.
I feel very fortunate. I feel that I'm blessed enough to be in a situation where I get to experience the volunteering or giving or being a part of these children's lives in some way or form. I feel fortunate enough that I'm able to travel across the country and visit these families.
Do you feel proud of yourself, Mariam?
Proud is a very big word, I feel. I feel even when someone is like, thank you very much, I think my immediate instinct is that's the least I can do, the least we can do as a community. I feel, again, fortunate because proud is kind of like, whew, I'm proud I accomplished this. When it comes to proud, I feel more proud that I can inspire my nephews, because even on these trips with Tarahum, I made it a goal for me to take one of my nephews with me every time I go. So far, 2 of them, they came with me. Now the rest of them, I'm preparing them to take them. And I feel proud that I'm part of a huge community, being my family and these groups, and seeing all the different skills and talent helping in their different ways.
Yes.
That's what I feel more proud of.
That's really amazing, Ms. Mariam. So you mentioned about voluntary work has really shaped your life and your perspective to yourself. Can you tell us how is that?
I think volunteering and giving, it just humbles you.
Yes.
It automatically aligns your priorities. And I think because I'm used to volunteering in that community, in that world, sometimes when I meet someone and they've never volunteered in their lives, and when I talk about these experiences and I see their eyes light up, or they're like, oh, like, these are your priorities, and I just feel like, I wish you can be a part of this.
Yes.
And yeah, I just think it just shapes my priorities when you get to see everything happening in the world and you're not in your own bubble. You just get to see what's important and focus on that and go that way.
That's amazing. So, Ms. Mariam, since we are in the summer season and you love children, so do you have any advice for our dear viewers, especially for the children?
Especially for the children, teenagers, I would say.
Yes.
So there's, again, I always go back to the sayings in Arabic, but because they have been a huge part of how I think and how I approach things. There's a saying, أشغل نفسك بالخير تشغلك عن السوء, which is occupy yourself with good, it will keep you away from the bad. And the bad, yeah, and I feel like just we have so much time on our hands, and if you're not going to do good with it, what are you going to do? And bad doesn't have to be like, oh, bad. It can be simply as spending all day long watching Netflix for days and days and days. Like, how is that you growing, and how is that going to help your community, you know? I think one of our roles here in this life is to uplift and to make change.
Yes.
So I would say volunteer in anything. It can be a skill you have. And if you don't know what you like to volunteer in, just start somewhere. Go anywhere. There are so many different volunteering opportunities. Start somewhere, and you'll just find out that you're going to find yourself more through those experiences.
Yes. Well, Miss Mariam, I'm so glad that I met you. You are a good-hearted person.
Thank you.
And big appreciation for all your efforts for you and for your organizations. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, dear viewers, we reached the end of our episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. See you for the next one, and have a nice evening.